Okay, I would like to do a video about what's being said by the master of all Bulldogs. A lot of what he's saying is true. It's not very eloquently said, but it's the truth. Okay, people got to understand the difference between a bloodline and a breed. A bloodline is created from an already existing breed. So you have to stay to the standard. You can't add other blood into the process. And when I say other blood, I mean other breeds into the process. Now, to create a different bloodline, all you doing is you drawing a correlation between a progenitor to its offspring, like daddy to son to grandson, and so forth and so on. That's the difference between creating a bloodline and a breed. A lot of people are calling these dogs bloodlines, but if you look at the dogs, they are nowhere near the standard. So it's like they didn't take two pit bulls, which with AKC was changed into American Staffordshire Terriers. They didn't take two of them and breed them together and create a line showing that these dogs is related to other dogs. What they did was they probably did take some of that blood, but then it looks like they mixing it in with other different types of dogs, like Presa Caneras, Bulldogs, Argentines, Mastiffs. You can't do that because that's not creating a bloodline. That's creating a whole new breed. But people are calling it a bloodline. Now, all I'm saying is I prefer American Staffordshire Terrier, which is actually the Pit Bull Terrier with AKC. I prefer them mainly because of the body. Now, he did get a couple things wrong, like the size. Those dogs can get large. Not as large as some of those other dogs, but they can get up to 70 pounds. Because within the breed standard AKC, you can look, it's from all the way up to 70 pounds for the males. So it's people just got to really do some studying. But a lot of what he said is true, and you see it. You see people trying to pass off dogs that have other breeds mixed into the Amstaff or the Pit Bull Terrier and calling it still a Pit Bull Terrier. What it is you got to understand the history of the AKC and the other different dog registries. On the AKC allowed like 50 dogs to be registered as Amstaffs or American Staffordshire Terriers, but they were really Pit Bull Terriers. The reason why they did that is they changed the name from Pit Bull Terriers to Amstaffs because the heat on the dogs was very high at that time. So a lot of the real breeds that people know, like Boudreaux, Kobe, James Crenshaw, all these people, they actually had established bloods that they really went and did the paperwork to call them blood, but they ended up being registered as Amstaffs with AKC, which is the oldest dog registry in America. So a lot of these dogs that people got out of there are calling Pit Bull Terriers. They wouldn't really be called Pit Bull Terriers if you had paperwork. They would be called Amstaffs if they came from that original blood. That's only the dogs that were registered. What I wanted to explain to him is, of course, you know some dogs weren't registered, and then how it is if a dog turn out curved, they'll get rid of the dog. They probably wouldn't waste the time putting a paper trail on that dog, and that dog will curve. They'll give it to somebody else, and that dog, they'll take that dog and breed it in with their stock, and you'll get some fire. You'll get some fire out of that stock. That's where I think a lot of the Pit Bull Terriers that we have now that's being sold in backyard kennels. That's where the blood come from. When you have a real gang dog, it comes from that. But what I want to say is, even before the Pit Bull Terrier was established, because at one time they did have to establish traits and trait behavior, all this for the Pit Bull Terrier before they renamed it Amstaff, and they did that. But even before that, when dogs were really called Pit Bull, when it started being called Pit Bull from England, people got to understand that there was a lot of dogs mixed in with that blood. That's why you see those dominant recessive genes come back up through the ranks before, because in the beginning, people only bred dogs for game. They didn't breed dogs based off of looks, bloodline, stuff like that. A lot of that came later. Back then, these was poor people who what they did was fought dogs to supplement their incomes. That's why I think these dogs are so appealing to the average everyday man nowadays, is because it's like these dogs have to raise through the ranks. They have to be trained. They have to raise through the ranks to become grand champions and champions, 5-time winners. And that's one of the reasons why you have a problem with people calling dogs 5-time winners now or grand champions now, because it ain't no more fighting. So if they're a grand champion, it's based off of traits and looks. A dog can look like everything they say a dog can look like, based off of the stats of an Amstaff or a Pit Bull Terrier, but it could be cur. It's not game. How do you know the dog is game if you cannot test the dog? And that's where a lot of the debate and the problem come from now. And then I think he's talking about the fact that now they starting to introduce other dogs as Pit Bull Terriers to kind of get rid of the Pit Bull Terrier altogether. Because if you got this dog that's naturally a cur dog, meaning I'm talking about bullies, that's an established breed now, bullies, but it's not a pit bull, mainly because the main traits for the pit bull should have been the gameness of the dog. See, that's what it is. That's what made that dog famous, is the fact that it had more game than other dogs. It was gamer than other dogs. But if you take the game away, you only have a look. That's what you get in the bully. It is true what he's saying. But I want them to see each other's point of view. What he's saying is, a lot, like Cane Corsos, a lot of those different dogs right there. Now, way back when they first started pit fighting, they might have did mix that blood in. But once the breed got established, then people would only breed those dogs to each other based off the gameness of those dogs to come up with that newer Amstaff. But now, fast forward into the future, people starting to do the same thing, breed other breeds in, like the Bully Bulldogs. They give it a more passive attitude. And the thing is, if you want to hold true to the Pit Bull Terrier, it has to have game. That's why I named my channel Game Dog Sold by Jesus Freak. Because my goal is game dogs. My goal is not a look. It's not a build. I am taking dogs that I feel are I'm taking traits in a dog to build up a certain type of dog. The reason why I know what he's saying is true, because right back when that's why I stopped before, because I learned about this whole situation about Amstaffs being the original Pit Bull Terriers in AKC. Now, AKC is the oldest register. That's the dogs that all those real famous people had, and that's where they had them registered under. And if you wanted to get them, you had to buy one of those dogs from them. But go forward, a lot of people weren't breeding those dogs for game. So I kind of went the other route. I was involved in training and bringing dogs around when the game fighting was prevalent. And I was in a unique position to be able to get a lot of these bloodlines. And like I said, I had no paperwork, so the only way I could tell that these dogs were what they said these dogs were, I had to go off the word of mouth. And back then, you really didn't go off the word of mouth. You went off how that dog performed in the ring. Did you see those traits that they said that these dogs or these bloodlines from in the past had? It's the only thing you can go off of. And it's sort of like a remake. It's going back around full circle to how the dog came before. But now what I think they need to do is start, I think what I would talk to these people about, instead of arguing amongst each other about, the truth, because we know Master All Bulldogs is telling the truth. But now I prefer dogs that aren't papered, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we already know at a time that the ones that was in the ones that came after them big names like Kobe, Boudreaux, when they really chomped down on dog fighting, and here in the future, people weren't doing it no more. But then people that was on the sides that had dogs that didn't have papers, they were doing it. So the blood, and they did probably have descendants of that blood. Those dogs maintain their purpose, meaning people was breeding them for gameness. Now, they might not have been breeding them for standard. They was breeding them for gameness. But the people that's in the Amstaffs and AKC, 9 times 10, they not. I'm not saying all of them not, but I'm saying for the most part, they not. So it's two routes you can take. You can either go get you some Amstaff blood from AKC, which we know for a fact, or we know pretty much because of the paperwork, which can be changed, that they are descendants. But it's the same difference in taking dogs that people say are this, and you don't know, because in either one of them, you really don't know. And then go ahead on and start your own bloodline by getting these two dogs, breeding them, established, but breeding them for the right purpose, breeding them for game. Breed them like pack animals and allow them to do what pack animals do, and that's establish archy or hierarchy. Alpha dogs usually gonna be the head of the pack, all the way down to the beta dogs. And the alpha dogs would kind of be the dogs that would be the more game dogs, because that's what, that passion is what, but you can do that with these other dogs too. In other words, I think what we need to be doing is coming together to really try to get AKC, because to me, that's really the only ones I deal with, AKC. Not saying that these other ones could have done the exact same thing I'm telling you that you should be doing with these other two sets of dogs, the paper dog, the non-paper dog, that's descendants of the good bloodline. And that's probably what these other people have done. They kind of established a new standard. They probably came up with a new standard and started breeding to get back to what the dogs were supposed to be. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to kind of talk to AKC about. We need to establish a path to allow us to get the dogs that we have now registered, seeing that they say they have the largest database of any dog registry in America. So if that's the truth, you should be able to let us know based off DNA testing that the dogs that we have are direct descendants. They just need to make it affordable, and then it'll be helping us out and them out, because it'll introduce new blood into the stream, and it will allow us a path to be registered with, to me, hands down, the oldest and most distinguished dog registry in America. Jesus Freak out. Thank you.